as Remembrance Day is sneaking up on us, you know, you really realize how fortunate we are in this country that we're not burdened with those type of troubles that our friends overseas are constantly seems to be upheaval. So, thank you. Well, as you can see this morning, John, the retirement didn't work out for him. He saw his wife's honey-do list. Thank you, John, for filling in. Young Jonathan is on his honeymoon, so congratulations to him as well. Okay, John, whenever you're ready.
Your Worship, all members are present. In attendance today, you have alternate Councillor Jeffrey in place of Councillor Fryer. Councillor McClellan is absent and Councillor Sando is absent.
And I wouldn't be remiss, I got a surprise over here to my right. Welcome back, Councillor Smith. It's good to see you, my friend. So I'll look for the approval of the agenda with Councillor Dolan.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Miskimings that the agenda for October 24th, 2023 meeting of Council be approved.
Everybody's heard the motion. Any questions on the motion on the agenda? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Do I have a disclosure of pecuniary interest by any member of council? If you find yourself in that position at some point, please put your hand up. I have no presentations and deputations, but our consent agenda. Councillor Burkett.
Thank you. Good morning, Your Worship. Through you, moved by myself, second by Councillor Norcross, that the Council Communications and Proclamations, October the 10th, 2023 to October the 23rd, 2023 have been given due consideration be received.
Thank you. Everybody's heard the motion. Any questions? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Adoption of the council minutes. Deputy Warden Coughlin.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Locke, that the following council minutes be confirmed and adopted, and the Committee of the Whole reports be confirmed. County Council minutes, October 10th, 2023. County Council confidential minutes, October 10th, 2023. And Committee of the Whole report, October 10th, 2023.
Any questions on those minutes? All in favor of that motion? That is carried. Thank you. So now we're on to the consideration of the Committee of the Whole. So Chair Cox, if you would lead us off.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Evans, that performance management recommendations contained within the Committee of the Whole report dated October 10th, 2023 be approved.
Any items to be pulled from performance? Not seeing any, so all in favor of that motion? That is carried. Thank you. Next I have Chair Leduc.
Thank you, Warden. We're at 9.2, Committee of the Whole Report, Human Services, dated October 10, 2023. So moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that the Human Services recommendation contained within the Committee of the Whole Report dated October 10, 2023 be approved.
Anything to be pulled from the Human Services? I'm not seeing any, so all in favor? That is carried. Boy, we're flying right along because we have no presentations today. No officers' reports, notices of which motion has been given, none, and I don't believe any notices of motion. Closed session, just, do we need, this isn't where we're going to camera, no, it's the Committee of the Whole. So I'm looking for Councillor Norgroff for the bills and
Thank you, Your Worship.
bylaws. Yes.
Sorry, thank you, Your Worship. Through you, of course. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Burkett, that Bill number 7037-23 be enacted as a bylaw of the County of Simcoe.
Everybody familiar with the bylaw? Any questions? All in favor? That is carried. So announcements, I'll actually go first. As many of you knew, my birth mother passed away, and I wanted to thank staff and all of council that reached out. It really did make a difference to hear from your friends when something like that. I'm always that guy that says, oh, leave me alone when I'm not feeling well, but you know what? I would take the time every time I'd see an email or a text come in, and it really did matter. So thank you very much for all the kind comments, and I'll try not to choke up here. Special thanks to both Randy and Peter and Mark, who actually found time to come down to the wake, which you did not need to do, gentlemen, but I really did appreciate seeing you there. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to everybody. With that, is there any other announcements? Oh boy, it's been a quick one today. I actually went all out and I wore my pink shirt because this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I know the day was actually October 19th, but I have several good friends that are going through treatment now, and I said I would wear a pink shirt for them for that occasion for the rest of the month. So you might get tired of seeing this shirt after a while because I only have one. So with that, I would look for the confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Norcross.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, moved by myself, second by Councillor Evans, that Bill number 7038-23 be enacted as a bylaw of the County of Simcoe.
Everybody's heard the motion. All in favor? That is carried. And I'll look for an adjournment. Moved by Councillor Measure, second by Councillor Fowler, that we now adjourn at 9:09 a.m. until, I guess it doesn't say here. All in favor? That is carried. Why don't we just roll right into the committee of the whole? If Doug, you want to call them in. Boy, that's got to set a record. Just need a minute while we do attendance. We're good to go? Okay, I'll call the meeting to order, and I see our city reps are here now. I'll look for approval of the agenda with Councillor Dolan.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by alternate Councillor Jeffrey that the agenda for the October 24th, 2023 meeting of the Committee of the Whole be approved.
Okay, any questions on the agenda? Don't see any. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Any member of council see anything on the agenda that would affect them? Not seeing any. So presentations and delegations, we have none. So we will roll right into performance management. Chair Cox.
Good morning. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Bell. That item CCW 2023-281 dated October 24th, 2023 regarding Simcoe County Archives operations in September 2023 be received. Anyone have any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Okay, now I'll go to Human Services. Chair Leduc.
Thank you, Warden, and welcome to the city reps to being here today. So we're at item number 6, consent agenda. There's one item in the consent agenda, the centralized scheduling software project update, CC 23-275. Anybody want to pull up or comment? Seeing none, so I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Van Stavern, seconded by Councillor Smith, Michael Smith at the back. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. We are into 7.1, CCW 2023-293, Paramedic Services, 24 response time performance targets. Questions or concerns with this report? Maybe I'll have our General Manager, Jane Sinclair, give us a little update on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to provide some context to this particular report, this is about our annual reporting to the province on our performance standards. There are 6 that are required by all paramedic services across the province, and that changed a number of years ago. And historically, paramedic services would look at their response data particular types of calls and would set their targets accordingly. And that's what we've done since the inception of these targets. With the last council, there was significant discussion about being more progressive with the targets. So beginning in 2022, through direction from council, they asked staff to go back and set new targets that were greater response times than we had seen historically. And that was based on a number of new and innovative initiatives underway, such as the use of technology, looking at the application of drones, looking at locator apps, and also knowing that a new software program would be coming forward for paramedic services called MPDS, which would really hone in on the most critical types of calls and really reduce the number of urgent responses. So staff set new targets in 2022 for a 3-year transition period with a goal to really increase and improve our response time. And so 2022 was the first year of these new transition targets. And what we've done is, what we do every year is we've done some analysis on the data. And when we looked at 2022 response times, we actually saw a reduction in most of the categories, and it's was related to a number of reasons. If you may recall, in 2021, paramedic services related to the pandemic saw a significant drop in their annual calls related to trending happening in healthcare. In 2022, we saw a huge rebound in calls and experienced an 11% increase in calls. So we had a huge surge of calls in 2022. And that was coupled with some a retention and recruitment program. And then we also saw simultaneously huge increases in our offload delay times. All of these factors really, as you can see from the data, impacted our ability to respond as we had historically to those 6 metrics. On the good news on this analysis is we've started to look at the first 6 months of 2023, and we've seen a rebound. So all 6 categories, we've met the 2021 targets so far this year, and we've met 2 of the 6 more progressive targets so far, and we're optimistic that we'll continue to see an improvement in the trending. So at this point in time, staff is recommending that we stay the course as per previous council's direction to continue with those more progressive metrics for the 3-year period, so 22 through to 24, and provide those metrics to the province and strive to meet those going into 2024.
Thank you very much, General.
You're welcome.
That great update. Appreciate that very much. So I have a question in the back from Councillor Rawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the report and appreciate the details, and hats off to everyone in paramedic services. I know they do tremendous work. My question is about the response time standards, specifically in alignment to transfer care time. So I appreciate CTEST level 1 and CTEST level 2, highest acuity patients, and one example could be STEMI or stroke bypass. They need to get to definitive care, and I appreciate response time standards speaks to how quickly responders getting to a residence, could be a paramedic response unit or transporting unit. My question is, do we have the data on the transfer of care time when the transporting units bring them to the hospital to definitive care and the transfer of care? That's not reflected in the response time standard, as I believe. I believe this is just when we stop the clock when a responding vehicle arrives at the residence. So could we see the transfer care time and how that relates?
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, I believe the question is regarding when the paramedics transfer from arrival at scene to the hospital. That is something that we have been discussing with the paramedic services leadership. We are looking at that data. I will look to our chief and director, Sarah Mills, for an update on where we're at with that analysis.
Through you, Your Worship, I believe you're asking about like when we get to the hospital, how quickly a CTEST 1, a CTEST 2, a CTEST 3 is being offloaded, being transferred. So we are collecting that data. We don't have it here, but we can follow up with you. It's more of we're looking at different ways to do things as we move into the future of paramedic services, and correlating, to your point, our provincial standards with CTES 1, 2s, and 3s, matching how they're being received at the hospital is something we're working on going into the future, just so we have that data to help with offload delay, that kind of thing. So is that kind of answering your question? Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we will be bringing more information during our budget deliberations on the patient care transfer time. We will, further to your comments, look at the actual time of arrival versus the time to transport to the hospitals. We have lots of data on when we arrive at hospitals, so we'll bring those pieces as part of our budget deliberations for council consideration.
Excellent. Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Smith.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to General Manager Sinclair. As intensification in our urban centers increases in the buildings, the residential buildings are getting bigger and bigger, especially in our urban centers. I noticed in all the data, the clock stops when we arrive on scene, not when we arrive at the patient. So in a large high-rise, it could probably take as long to get to the patient once you're on scene as it took to get to the building. I'm just wondering, are we tracking that data as well? Or is that something you plan to track in the future as those are more and more prevalent? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have not tracked that particular data on scene versus arrival on patient. However, we have a very rich source of data. The nature of this particular service, all the various components are timed and tracked, so we can again take that offline and look at comparing the arrival time versus the time at patient, arriving to the patient.
Okay, great question. Thank you very much. Further comments or questions on this? Oh, I have Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, a great report, and good to see that although we do have some ebbs and flows, that our paramedic team is staying on top of this and doing great work as always. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I'm a big fan of our paramedic services here in Simcoe County. They do phenomenal work, and as I've said before, I rarely see an ambulance sitting in a station. So although these times are great, and I think we're working on improving that, no doubt, I think a big part of the issue, and we've heard it from my colleagues here this morning, is it's one thing to mark the time once you arrive on the scene, but what are those times thereafter? And although we may get to the patient within a half a minute or a minute after arriving, and depending on the level of care, we may resuscitate, we may get them moving again, if you will, but then we've got to get them to hospital. And a big problem we have, obviously, is once we get to hospital is the offload times. And offload times mean one thing. We don't have paramedics on the road that can respond to calls, that can improve upon everything there and in between. And so, I've heard from many paramedics they can spend half a shift, sometimes a whole shift. Their first call, the rest of the day, they're sitting there waiting to do an offload. So that unit is no longer on the road for that whole day or half of that day or shift. We really need to work, I think, as we look at this moving forward on those offload times. And I do not begrudge the hospitals. They are, I spent 3 weeks in South Lake. They are so busy. And they're doing the absolute best they can as well. So I think we need to find more effective ways, more affordable ways to assist at the hospital level to get those offloads. And I understand people say, yeah, well, we can offload them quicker, but they're still not getting care at the hospital because they don't have the required staff and or resources to look after that patient either. But whether a paramedic is standing tied up in the hospital or a nurse practitioner or another paramedic that does the job of only hospital duty, and I know that we've got a test going on with nurse practitioner, but we really do need to spend some good time and effort and digging into this deeper. And as we look to next year and our budget next year, I understand this is a provincial issue, it's health care, but at the end of the day, our job is to make sure that our citizens are getting the best quality service they can. And I don't see it any other way. If we can't get paramedics back on the road, we're going to be in big trouble. Thank you.
I'll have our General Manager comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Offload delay is a significant factor for paramedic services at this point in time. Staff will be bringing forward a very fulsome report in November to Council to update on the specifics on offload delay. We are seeing continuance of significant time in emergency departments across all of our hospitals, and we will be bringing forward some recommendations as part of the budget deliberations as well. But on a positive note, part of the report we'll be bringing next month includes recent notification from the Ministry of Health of an increase in our offload nurse funding. We have been funded for over a decade for approximately $132,000 annually. That was recently increased to just about $506,000, and we have just received notice. We are getting an increase to $1.2 million annually, which we will be able to provide support to all of our area hospitals to assist in the offload delay issues. So we look forward to bringing more information to County Council for your consideration. As noted, it is a very significant issue for us in paramedic services, and we are working very hard with our hospital partners to try and address this. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you, General Manager. That's great news to hear that we've got some funding coming, new funding. And you're absolutely right, Councillor Smith. This is where an area where we can make great improvements by this council. So look forward to those discussions, look forward to that report. Further comments or questions? All right, seeing none. Can I have it moved by Councillor Rawson and seconded by Councillor Jeffrey, alternate Councillor Jeffrey? You okay with that? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Oh, I should read the, hang on. I should read the recommendation, right? Okay, that item CCW 2023-293 dated October 24th, 2023 regarding the Simcoe County Paramedic Services response time performance targets be received, and that staff established the recommended 2024 response time performance targets as outlined in this item. All in favor again? Thank you. Apologize for that. All right, we're into Section 8, Human Services Long-Term Care Committee of Management. I have 8.1. CCW 2023-274, Give a Lift Bus Fundraising Campaign. Comments or questions on this? It's a good report. It's an excellent opportunity where we're getting more buses for areas. So, all right, seeing none, who can I have this moved by? Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Brian Smith in the back. All in favor? Oh, actually, let me read it. That item CCW 2023-274, dated October 24th, 2023, regarding the Give a Lift Bus Fundraising Campaign be received, and the County Council authorized the purchase of new bus for Trillium Manor, fully funded from the Trillium Manor Donation Reserve Fund, as outlined in this item. All in favor? 2, we have the CCW 2023-285 Simcoe Village Campus Project Update. Maybe I can ask our General Manager again to maybe just give a quick, brief review. It's a good news story, so can I ask you to do that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this report outlines a number of key aspects of our Simcoe Village campus redevelopment. First and foremost, we're continuing to work well with the province and have received recent approval to proceed with construction of the long-term care home. There are various approvals throughout the process of redeveloping the long-term care home. So we have completed I think 80,000 truckloads of soil have been delivered to the particular site. We've had soil monitoring equipment in place, and we have had received the green light to proceed now with construction. If you look at the aerial photos, you can actually start to see the foundations in the first buildings that we'll be constructing. And so we are proceeding with the foundation for the long-term care, the village campus, and the third building at this time. Very exciting to move forward. The report also provides an update on our costing. As you may recall, our report earlier this year in June, we were advised at that time, because of the continued construction instability, our cost consultants and construction team were recommending to include additional funding for the cost escalation. At that time, we included 17% for potential cost increases. The project was approved at $311 million, and we have continued to, as per the report, work closely with our cost consultants, and they're advising us the situation remains the same, so we will be coming forward during budget deliberations to recommend an additional contingency, which was mapped out in the June 23 report of another 13%. We have a number of tenders underway at this point to receive the results of our tenders to the end of the year and first quarter of 2024. At that time, staff will update council in terms of the results of the tenders and have a better sense of where we're actually at with our construction costs. And on a couple other quick points, we continue with our communications and our fundraising program at this point in time. We are looking to confirm an honorary chair for our fundraising campaign, and we'll keep council updated as we continue with our efforts and feedback from county councillors on that matter. And the report also includes a timeline with all the key milestones. So we're proceeding as projected, and things are moving very well with the project. Thank you.
Thank you, General Manager, for that update, and appreciate that. Just a quick story. I was up in Sudbury, Ontario on Sunday, Monday, touring a few facilities up there, and I can tell you that, boy, we have a way better standard than most. I can tell you that I'm disappointed with what I've seen, and really, I'm actually was there because I'm moving my parents because I wasn't satisfied with the service level there. So that's another note. But anyways, I'm glad about this report. I've sat on this committee, and we're moving along quite well. So I'm appreciative of the fact that we're doing a great job getting this done. Comments or questions? All right, so I need a mover and second for this, please. Moved by Councillor Measures, seconded by Councillor, Walker. Sorry, Ted. Questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, let me read the recommendation again. I'm moving ahead too fast today. That item CCW 2023-285 dated October 24, 2023 regarding Simcoe Village Campus Project Update be received for information. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Into 8.3, Simcoe County Positive Aging Strategy Community Survey. Question concerns with this report? Seeing none. A mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Hamlin, seconded by Deputy Warden Coughlin. That item, CCW 2023-292, dated October 24, 2023, regarding Simcoe County Positive Aging Strategy Community Survey be received. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Any other matters for consideration? We're into item 9, Human Services. Seeing none. All right, I turn it back to you, Warden. Sorry, Councillor, Mayor Nuttall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quickly, I just wanted to highlight a conversation I think has been happening very preliminarily between some members of the council, and I reached out to you about this as well. And I'm looking for some feedback on process with regards to policy changes to access to some of our social services. And I'll give as an example, when it comes to affordable housing units in Simcoe County, I personally believe that those should be set aside for Simcoe County residents and shouldn't be accessible to individuals all over the province, whether it's 1%, 2%, or 10%. I don't think is necessarily the point at this point. And I was wondering what the process is if there was a policy change that wanted to be brought forward. Should it be moved at our respective council and then forwarded over, or is there a process to have that brought forward?
All right, thank you for that question. General Manager Mina.
Through the chair, just point for clarification, affordable housing access, like locally to the county, like that's the specificity you were asking for?
Yeah, when I asked the question last, I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago. I'm kind of losing track of time here a little bit, but one of the questions was if somebody moves from Newmarket into Bradford, and then they're able to access to make that unit in Bradford either accessible or either physically or monetarily. My personal belief is the taxes that people are paying are going to take care of their neighbors, not going to take care of individuals who live outside of our area.
Through the chair, thank you for that clarification, Councillor Nuttall. So if the unit is subsidized through a provincial program where we're the service manager, the provincial legislation does not allow for localized rules on access to that unit. So the Housing Services Act is a provincial act that allows the service manager to work off a community-wide or a coordinated wait list. And then within that wait list, there's provincial priorities that supersede any local priority. In terms of if the unit is not subject to provincial, so there's units that we create post-download or units that we so choose not to include in the stock. Those ones we have local authority and discretion on, and we can certainly create different rules or priorities from a local standpoint. So it depends on the unit is the short answer. Kind of the longer answer depends on the history of that unit and how we are including it in or out of our stock based on the legislation. So,
may I ask a follow-up, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
With regards to the three major projects that are happening at the moment, Aurelia, Bradford, I believe, and Barrie, would those be falling under the provincial funding and programming or under the municipal?
Through the chair, the answer is yes. If we're taking federal or provincial money, so for example, for Aurelia, we layered in 2 provincial programs, OFI and COCHI. So then they're subject to the provincial legislation in order for us to use that money to develop it. That was for Aurelia. Bradford, we did layer a rapid rehousing initiative, which is federal, which also then ties us in as a service manager. Barrie, so far, we're not positioned yet to take any money because there isn't any available as of today, but we assume there will be. So for those units, they would be subject to the wait list. For the other units, it would then be discretion. But usually what happens in those communities, what we do is we do a public and transparent process. I think there was a report a couple of weeks on the lease up for Aurelia that kind of walks through what that process would be. And it's a call out for people to place themselves and submit applications on interest. If there's more people than units, which there will be, then you go through some sort of randomized process that's equitable. So again, it does depend on design and how we're funded. And if we do engage provincial or federal money, then we're subject to then the provincial and federal guidelines.
So just to confirm then, so there's 300 million in the room that's coming towards these. I think it's about $400 million, all of the projects put together. So there's $300 million in this room, and there's $100 million from these 4 Barrie representatives going to a program that we can't define to be supporting individuals inside of our own communities in totality.
Through the chair, I think like the last 3 projects in total so far around 315 million or so, maybe a little bit more. So for the units that are funded, so if in those reports, if we funded 30 units of replacement rent geared to income, which we're doing in the Barrie build, those rent geared to income are subject to the historical legislation, or they won't be affordable. And I think that defeats the purpose, right? For the units that are funded by OFI and COCHI, similarly, they'd be subject to the provincial regulations. Thereafter, so that I think that adds up to about 70 or 70 to 90 units of the 215 proposed at Barrie. And I'm just using Barrie as an example because it's just most recent to follow. Those remainder units, if we set them at average market rent or above average market rent, they would not be subjected to any provincial or federal, which is currently the plan. So half the building or so would be subject to provincial and guidelines. The other half would probably not be, and would be discretion to use our local discretion on how we place people.
So, Mr. Chair, maybe the recommendation on process to bring something forward with regards to the balance. What do you recommend?
Well, we have a Housing Corporation Board meeting right after this, and these are great questions, and I think this is where we need to maybe bring that conversation, and we can set some policy there. And you've really made some great questions to make this a great conversation after. I think there's some things we need to do to change this and make sure we do provide for our people. So I appreciate that. So that's where we'll take it, hopefully. I turn it back to you, Warden.
Thank you, and now I'll turn it over to Chair Dolan for Corporate Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we're on item 10, Corporate Services Consent, and there's one item on that, which is the letter from Ormadante supporting the Lake Simcoe phosphorus reduction strategy. Any comments or questions on that item? Seeing none, could I ask for a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Laux, Councillor Measures. Moved by Councillor Laux, seconded by Councillor Measures, that the following consent item, having been given due consideration, be received. All in favor? That's carried. Next is planning, corporate services planning, and that is the Town of Oramadante's official plan. Questions or comments on that? Seeing none, could I ask for a mover and a seconder, Councillor Lavoie and Councillor Greenlaw? Okay, and sorry, was there a question? I'm sorry, go ahead, Councillor Greenlaw.
Sorry, thank you, Chair Dolan. Through your worship to Chair Dolan, I just want to thank Mark, Nathan, and staff for all the hard work they did in putting this through and making sure the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before the city reps leave, I wonder, are they aware that the Simcoe County Housing Corporation? Okay, thank you so much for that. Sorry, thank you, Councillor Greenlaw. So I have a mover and a seconder, and I'm going to ask to waive reading of the motion. Can I do that, Mr. Clerk? Okay. With consent to waive reading, it's rather lengthy. All in favor? That is carried. Next, item number 12, that is the road maintenance agreement for County Road 16. Any questions or comments on that item? Could I ask for a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Cox, Councillor Laux, all those in favor? That's carried. Next is item 13.1. That is the Matchadash transfer station. I do have an alternate recommendation for that, moved by Councillor Burkett and seconded by Councillor Cox, that this item be referred back to staff for more discussion with the township. Questions or comments on the revised recommendation? Councillor Bell.
I was just hoping that in that when they're discussing it, to look at alternates. I know that I've done some remote communities with a lot of unique ideas. I know Matchdash is challenged with no hydro. We've looked at, we've had generators to solar units. We've had a lot of different things that could possibly be cheaper than relocating it.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Where are we? Oh, thank you. 13.2, the multi-res organics pilot program. Questions or comments on that? Councillor Gordon.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to voice my support for this pilot. This is something that I've had a lot of residents in our area wondering why that, it seems counterintuitive that these large congregate settings and cluster and high density people that are, making organic waste haven't been able to participate in this program. And so I think this has been a subject of a few emails. So it's really good to see that we're looking at this pilot. I'm sure it'll take, take the time it takes to figure out whether the juice is worth the squeeze, but I suggest it probably will be. And I do look forward to seeing it more broadly adopted once we've got an analysis of the success. Clearly part of this challenge will be encouraging people to use this system when they're so used to, as we were talking in coffee time, just firing everything down the chute, bottles, cans, everything. So it's going to be a little bit of changing people's hearts and minds when it comes to participating. But as we've seen with the success of the county's little raccoon and what was the other animal? Was it a couple of raccoons? Anyway, whatever those animals were, to try and get people around their minds around the bins. It was cute, it was fun and quite effective, and I'm sure there'll be something equally engaging for the pilot and that we can all get behind in our municipalities and encourage people to start contributing. So bravo on this. I look forward to the output. I wish it wasn't as far down the road as we have to go with this, but I understand these pilots take time.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. It was a rabbit. Councillor Bell.
Yeah, I think the only comment I had is I know one of the issues that you always have with multi-res, I think it's a great idea. You have a lot of people in a dense area, is controlling the contamination. And what is the plan for that? Are we going to do a waste audit or kind of do a dedicated route so we have an understanding of what kind of contamination levels we're going to be looking at?
GM Elliott, did you have a response for that?
Great. Thank you, Council, through the chair. Fantastic question. That's absolutely part of the purpose of the pilot, is to figure out those mechanics. One of the issues with multi-res complexes is that ownership of waste. And you're right, it's convenient to throw your pop bottle in the organics bin or whatnot. So part of that will be auditing that to make sure we have recommendations that make sense going forward.
Other questions? I did have one, if I could, through you, GM Elliott. So the responsibility in the end, actually, if I read it correctly, goes to either the condo corporation or the landlord eventually to have the 50%, meet the 50% target by 2025. And I just wondered how that's going to work. Who's going to police that?
That's correct. That's not the county's responsibility, but we are trying to inform decision makers about how that would be monitored. But I'm going to actually refer that question to our Director of Solid Waste, Rob McCullough, who might have a more fulsome answer.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair, or to you, Madam Chair. You're right. It's not our responsibility. The province is the one who set the legislation. They have not been forthcoming as of yet as to how that would be enforced. I would say there's been many problems with enforcement in the industrial, commercial, and institutional when it comes to recycling. I'm not sure. They haven't been forthcoming with any answers as to how that would be any different. When we do find out what that will be, we'll certainly be happy to report back to Council on it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on this item? Could I ask for a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Evans, seconded by alternate Councillor Jeffrey. That item CCW 2023-273 dated October 24th, 2023 regarding the multi-residential organics pilot program be received, and that an 18-month multi-residential organics pilot program be approved as outlined within item CCW-2023-273, and that staff report on the results of the pilot program and further recommendations for multi-residential organics to Council by the end of the pilot program. All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Are there any other items for consideration for corporate services? Seeing none, item 14.1, the Economic Development Subcommittee. Any comments on those minutes? Seeing none, a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor MacDonald and Councillor Fowler, that the recommendations contained within the Economic Development Subcommittee report dated October the 10th, 2023 be approved. All those in favor? Any contrary? That's carried. Thank you. I'll send it back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you. After having nothing on the agenda last time, I was hoping you would actually read that long motion. And but anyways, we got through it. So I will go on to Chair Cox now for performance management. And I think you have a presentation.
Yep. Good morning. We have a presentation this morning on Sustainable Operations Climate Action Planning Update, and I will get GM Wilcox to introduce our presenters. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just giving the moment to get set up here. Thank you very much. We have our Climate Action Plan team here. We have Don Hipwell. We have Director of Fleet Procurement and Property, Catherine Payne, who's the Manager of Procurement and Sustainability, and Angela Leach, who's Sustainable Operations Program Supervisor. We've been a number of steps through this process so far, which is successfully concluding today with an action plan that we are going to present to you for endorsement. that we will act upon in the future. This will affect ongoing budgets and our long-term financial planning, but will move us further forward in the area of sustainable operations. And I turn it over to the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim Wilcox, and through your worship and the chair. I'm very, very happy to be here today to present the Corporate Climate Action Plan to you. I'm going to walk through a presentation that's going to give a little bit of history and bring us to where we are today and look to the future. This slide outlines where it all started. 2009, the Green Energy Act was created in response to climate change concerns. In 2012, Council approved the creation of our Sustainable Operations Program and team. In 2018, we came forward with the PCP program membership opportunity, which Council endorsed. And in 2021, we created completed Milestone 1, which was our baseline greenhouse gas inventory for the corporation. In 2022, we engaged Sustainable Solutions Group to assist us with Milestone 2 and 3, which were quite complex. And this year, we did come back to you with our climate crisis presentation and our climate action plan concept presentation. And you'll see some of the same slides here today as you saw then. Today, we're here to get the plan approved with your endorsement, and then we'll be moving forward to implement the plan in November and ongoing in the new year. So just some more history on what the county and previous councils and this council have done to date. We implemented annual reporting to the province on the county's energy usage, and that was part of the Green Energy Act. Through the work of the Sustainable Operations Program, we've also engaged in some group purchase contracts for gas and electricity. We've done extensive energy efficiency initiatives and capital retrofits across our facilities. We have a sustainable travel policy. We've greened the fleet, and we continue to work on that. We have also installed a number of EV chargers across the county, 27, for the use of the public and county operations. We've also promoted an internal culture of sustainability with events and social media. And we've actually implemented a number of sustainable green energy projects here at the Administration Center. Some of you may know that we heat and cool the new wing with geothermal energy. And we have a solar array on the roof and out in the parking lot, and as well at the archives and in our social housing facilities, we have solar generating green energy. I won't go through the whole list here, but we have had previously LEED projects approved by Council. And we've had a LEED Silver target for Simcoe Village. We also have solar down there with a net zero energy goal and zero carbon design features on the residential homes. The museum's new addition, as you saw recently, will have solar planned for that addition, as well as, again, that net zero energy goal and zero carbon design features. The bolded notes here are the important ones. We've saved or avoided at least $2.2 million in costs since 2012. And we did also, through the work of the team and the green teams and all the folks internally in the departments, we saw a 37% reduction in our energy use intensity in our facilities since 2011. So this speaks to PCP Milestone 1, and as you can see, the top 4 items there are where our emissions are coming from currently. And this information was provided earlier this year, and this is what kicked us off in starting to analyze where we could reduce those emissions. And then SSG came on board and started looking at those numbers and setting a target. Our target is able to align with the Partners for Climate Protection Program, the Canadian government, and the United Nations target. So we'll be looking at short-term 44% corporate GHG emissions reduction by 2030. And that's below 2021 levels. And then long-term, we are targeting net zero by 2050. So in terms of creating the Climate Action Plan, SSG has a process. They walked through with us, and it was quite extensive. This lists all of the activities that we've all been through over the last year. Interviews with selected staff who are knowledgeable in special areas, There was an introductory webinar, in-person workshops, many department working meetings. There was also a staff survey. And in the end, we reviewed all of the detailed fleet and facility inventories, emissions, and the asset management plan for the future of the county. And this was done to analyze where we were planning to go in a business as usual scenario versus a do nothing scenario. A business as usual do nothing scenario versus a low carbon future. So here's the plan. It's attached in your report. So speaking to the business as usual do nothing scenario, this slide outlines our emissions. If we were to do nothing, we would, in terms of that 44% target I mentioned, we would end up at the 27% decrease, so far from where we need to be. This orange section depicts the solid waste landfill emissions that will be officially removed from our inventory as of 2027 when we start to export our waste. Now, the solid waste team, of course, keeps close eye on their waste emissions, and they will continue to monitor those emissions as time goes on. But it's really the measurement methodology that is used that means those emissions will not be included in our official numbers. So again, if we do nothing, that scenario reflects no additional actions to reduce emissions. Our number of staff will increase in line with population growth. These are the assumptions that are made. Our fleet will expand in proportion to employment growth. There will be no change in our fleet fuel type. Our fleet emissions due to waste haulage will increase when our landfills close, and there will be no major building retrofits, and our fuel mix would remain the same in the buildings. With the low carbon pathway, things look dramatically different, and you can see here that we will reach our targets. Unfortunately, those images are not appearing on my screen, but we do reach our initial goal of 44% by 2030, and oh, there they come, and then our final goal of net zero by 2050. There it comes. So this is just a summary slide of that information showing business as usual, do nothing versus low carbon. Here's where we would be if we do nothing, and here's where we'll be if we act. This slide speaks to the investment, and this slide has been seen before. It's more detailed in terms of the numbers, but we do know that there's an investment up front to get us where we need to go. Those investments include the retrofits of the buildings that are deemed to be emitting GHGs, usually through the use of gas for heating and also heating hot water. So there's the facilities, and then there's our fleet, which will be electrified. The overall message of this slide, though, is that it's a savings. Overall, cost avoidance. This is where we would be going at $697.5 million with no action, and our costs for moving forward in the low carbon scenario, $567.2, with an overall savings of $130.2 million. Within the CCAP, SSG has outlined the typical actions that we would be taking to get to our goals, which is reduce and improve and switch and generate. So in terms of what the county would be doing, we'll be focusing on our buildings, our fleet, and our employee commute. The emitting equipment retrofits would commence in 2025. We would be improving building efficiencies across the board, and we'd be looking at retrofits to include solar generation. With the fleet, the goal is to transition all light duty vehicles to EV by 2030, ambulance transition to hybrid by 2050, heavy duty vehicle transition to zero emission as equipment becomes available. That equipment does not exist at this time, but it's definitely in development. And then, of course, our employee commute, which after solid waste emissions are removed is our third major emitter. In terms of next steps, we will be performing a detailed assessment of facilities and fleet assets, and we will be creating a roadmap for retrofit and replacement in line with the CCAP. That'll be a 5-year plan that we'll be coming back to council with, and we'll be working with finance and all the departments to develop that plan, that work plan. Of course, we're always monitoring for external funding, and we know there's funding available currently for more EV chargers, and we are applying for funding for construction of our net zero projects as well. And we've gotten some positive feedback on those applications. The last bullet on here also just to make note that we are here to support the member municipalities in their efforts with climate action. And we do have a regular call with the member municipalities with some of your staff who have joined to talk about this issue on a quarterly basis. So I wanted to just stop here and really just say thank you. There's a number of people that need to be recognized here, and I wanted to thank your worship and council, previous and current, for all the support and wisdom that you've provided over the past decade, really, on this area. I wanted to thank Mark, our CAO and EMC, and all the department leaders, some of which are in the gallery, for all the work getting us through milestone 2 and 3 this past year. And I wanted to thank Catherine and Angela, who have worked with great passion and determination to get us to this important milestone. With council's approval, we do have a corporate climate action plan that'll take us into the next decade and beyond. It will be difficult work, but I believe we are up for the challenge. I put this graph on this slide because I wanted to just reflect back to 2009-10. This was our initial goal with regard to energy use intensity when we were asked to meet the Green Energy Act requirements by the province. And it was a very difficult challenge. We didn't really know where we were going, but every goal we were setting, we met and we exceeded. So at the 5-year mark, we met the goal and we exceeded it quite extensively. So it just shows that we can do it, and I think that's worth celebrating. So in terms of milestone 5, we will be monitoring the impact of the plan and the actions we'll be taking. We will create a report card for council. We'll be reporting to you annually, and we will refresh the plan every 5 years. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, comments? Councillor Dolan.
Thank you very much, Chair Cox. So I want to just ask for your opinion on LEAD. First, I'm going to tell you what I think, and then you're going to tell me whether I'm right or wrong. So I think the concept is wonderful. An example would be in our rec center in Innisfil, we used the heat from the ice generation to heat the pool, that type of thing. But I've also found with LEAD, you can sometimes, what I want to call buying points. So a good example would be, well, we put in a shower in our town hall so that people would bike to work and then clean up in the shower. And I think it's probably full of stacks of file folders and things. I don't think anybody ever uses it. But I just wondered your concept on that, because I saw on one of the slides you said LEAD-like. So is that the recommendation to go forward? I'm just interested in your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dolan. Yes, so there's a great deal of discussion about LEAD. LEAD came into place, I'm going to say 20 years ago. There may be others in the room who know more about that date, but that's where it started to become part of our conversation, I believe. And it's leadership in energy and environmental design. And the concept was put in place to encourage and incent folks who were designing and building buildings, and that's across the board, municipal, private. And I think the award system and the prestige related to having a LEED building was very much an incentive. I don't disagree with you that the concept of buying points, once you meet the certain basic requirements that are fairly common, not slightly more complex, but common, then you do get into this range, this upper range or echelon to get that gold or silver or platinum, or gold or platinum standard, I should say. The administration center here is an example. We put in our geothermal system here to get that gold. However, that system is paying us back, and so it was not a it was an easy decision to make, and council supported that decision. We have agreed with our paramedic services team to build lead-like paramedic stations. So instead of having to hire the lead consultant and pay for the lead fee for the award, et cetera, and the plaque, we have taken what we've learned, and we are happy to share that, but we've taken what we've learned with our architects and our designers, and we are building lead-like buildings. So energy efficient, the features that are all on the checklist, and wherever we can do that, we do. And we don't overspend unless there's a very valid business case for that expenditure so that we're getting a full payback. And I think the thing to note is that often the pieces related to these designs are green energy related. And green energy is mentioned in the plan, and the county's going to need to look at investing in green energy, solar, again, geothermal. These things do have a cost, but they always have a huge payback in perpetuity. Once the addition here has been paid back, that geothermal value, we have quote unquote free heating and cooling for our addition in perpetuity. And that's very valuable when you look at it long term. So I agree, it's a system. It had its time. There are other systems out there now. Well is one that speaks to the whole building, the air, the light coming in, the environment. It's not just about energy. So I think it's got its place, but we're working within our framework to get the benefit without so much of the money. So hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have any questions or comments? Seeing none, mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Bell. That recommendation item CCW 2023-250 dated October 4th, 2023 regarding the Sustainable Operations Climate Action Planning update be received, and that the Corporate Climate Action Plan and the emission reduction targets outlined therein be integrated into the County of Simcoe's strategic plan within Strategic Direction D, Environmental Sustainability, the County of Simcoe's long-term financial plan and operational work plans, and that the Corporation of the County of Simcoe commits to a target of 44% corporate greenhouse gas emissions reduction below 2021 levels by 2030 and net zero corporate GHG emissions by 2050. All in favor? Carried. Dawn, do you think you could send us that presentation to all of us?
Absolutely, and I believe it will be in the minutes of the meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other matters for consideration for performance management? Seeing none, back to you, Warden.
Okay, thank you. And with apologies to Mayor Nuttall, we do need to go into camera. Trevor wants to give us an update. As soon as we come out, we'll be adjourning, and then 10 minutes later, we'll roll into the social housing. So I've got a motion here. The Committee of the Whole resolve into closed session at 10:06 under the authority of the Municipal Act, Section 239(2)K, a position plan procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on behalf of the municipality or local board, and Section 239(2)D, labor relations or employee relations. So could I have a mover for that? Moved by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor Bell. All in favor? That is carried. So Maybe. Is it on? No. Yeah, it looks like there's nobody out there, so can I go ahead, Mr. Clerk? Okay, so I have a motion moved by Councillor Compton, second by Councillor Norris. The direction in camera and recommendations contained within confidential item CCW 2023-288 dated October 24, 2023 regarding a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instructions to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board of labor relations or employee negotiations be voted on upon and approved in accordance with section 239(6)B of the Municipal Act. Boy, that was a mouthful. Everybody knows the motion. All in favor? And any opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And now I will look to adjourn, I believe. Yes, look to adjourn. Motion to adjourn moved by Councillor McDonald, second by Councillor Measures. The October 24, 2023 meeting of the Committee of Whole be adjourned at 11:02. All in favor? That is carried. So, James, when did you want to reconvene? ASAP. 10 minutes?
No, 5 minutes after.
All right, and then we'll... Yeah, Simcoe County Housing is going to reconvene here in about 5 minutes, so, yeah. All right.